My name is Somashekar, course faculty for this course. Now quickly we will see some numericals on accumulator. Consider an accumulator has a full volume of 5 liters. The full capacity of the accumulator is 5 liters. System working pressure 200 bar. Now squeeze the gas to 2.5 liters, meaning exactly half. I am squeezing by applying the working pressure. Then expand it to full volume to see how much energy is stored. W you have to calculate. For this, what are the given data? The full volume V2 is how much it is? 5 liters. I am converted into m cube, same unit. P1 is 200 bar. You already know it, Pascal, how to convert, multiplied by 10 to the power of 5. The V1 is compressing to 2.5 liters, same m cube. What to do? You have to calculate the energy stored. Already we know that the R equal to V2 by V1. You substitute the V2 by V1, you will get the 2. Please note friends here, very important, it is also a caution for you people. The P is a gauge pressure, what they are given. But all formulas what we have calculated previously, they requires the absolute pressure, meaning you have to add the atmospheric pressure. Or you will write the note, in the given example, I am ignoring the atmospheric pressure, which should be the 0.1 MPa or 1 bar. Now, we will calculate the stored energy for isothermal as well as adiabatic case as follows. Isothermal case, already we know that E equal to P1 V1 ln R. Already we know all the values, P1 is known, V1 is known and R is also known. Calculate 35 kilojoule. Similarly, adiabatic, gamma is coming, P1 V1 into bracket 1 minus R to the power of 1 minus gamma, gamma minus 1. Substitute all the values, I will get the 30 kilojoule for adiabatic. For isothermal, 35 kilojoule. How much it is less? Approximately the 14% less energy in adiabatic. Now, we will move on to one more problem. A 15 liters accumulator has a 55 bar absolute, very important. If they are given absolute, automatically you will use same value. If they are given the gauge pressure, be careful, you have to add 1 bar to get the absolute value. Precharged gas of nitrogen and is placed in a hydraulic circuit containing a pressure relief valve at 138 bar absolute. Determine the amount of oil that can be stored in the accumulator. For this, what are the given data? First we will start with the empty cylinder. Here the nitrogen precharge, they are given the P1 equal to 55 bar, absolute it is. V1 is given as a 15 liters, full accumulator. When it is compressed due to the oil entry through the pump, what happens? P2 is given as a system pressure 138 bar. Now, our objective is to find out the how much oil will be stored here. For this, what is required? We have to use the ideal gas laws, but V2 is also I do not know how much it is. For that, what we will do, assuming that the nitrogen gas can be treated as an ideal gas, PV equal to MRT is an equation, then PV by MT equal to R, then what? PV equal to MT is a constant, R is a gas constant. When you will use one state to another state, P1 V1 by MT equal to P2 V2 by MT. Later these two terms will get cancelled, I will get P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. Assuming a no nitrogen leakage and if filled slow enough, that temperature stays the same. then P1 V1 equal to P2 V2 as I have told you. Then substitute all the values, given values. The V2 is unknown. You will calculate V2 equal to 5.978 liters. You don't bother here, friends. Directly I am putting in the bar 55 bar, 138 bar, and I am liters. No need to worry here because in this equation units will match all. Then V2 equal to 5.978. If I know the 5.978, here I know the V1 15 bar. Take the minus to get the V oil. V oil equal to V1 minus V2. Here 15 liters minus 5.978 liters. I will get here the oil volume is 9.022 liters. Meaning finally I will get it all the parameter like this, V oil and V2. Quickly we will see one more problem. A 22 liters accumulator has a 21 bar gauge. When they will give like this, be careful, formulas are derived with absolute pressure from the 0 level. This is gauge pressure. Gauge pressure means above the atmospheric level. You have to add the 1 bar pressure. You will see now. Is placed in the hydraulic circuit containing the pressure relief valve at 103 bar gauge. Determine the amount of oil. Similar to previous, but why I am taking this is, which pressure is given, you have to be careful. The given data as usual, P1 is given, V1 is given, nitrogen pre-charge it is, and P2 is given system pressure, V2 I do not know, and V oil is very important. Same thing, similarly assuming the no nitrogen leakage, and if fills slowly enough, the temperature stays the same. This is an assumption, meaning isothermal process. Please note the gauge pressure is given and take care by adding the atmospheric pressure as 1 bar to get the absolute pressure. P1 V1 equal to P2 V2, substitute all the value, you will see I am adding now 21 plus 1. Here also 103 bar plus 1, then only it is absolute pressure. Then we will get V2 is equal to 4.6538 Newton. V2 I am getting. Once I know the V2, V1 minus V2 is nothing but the V oil, 17.3462 liters. Very, very simple problem, similar to previous one, only to show you the how to concentrate more on the pressure terms. A 22 liter accumulator has a 21 bar gauge, no need to worry or what, we have to add it 1 bar, pre-charge, and is placed in a hydraulic circuit containing the pressure relief valve set at 103 bar. As it fills the nitrogen, temperature changes from 21 degree centigrade to 43 degree centigrade. When it will fills, temperature changes, adiabatic. Determine the oil capacity can be stored in the accumulator. So, the given parameter P1 V1, T1 is given. When it is storing, what happens? P2 is 103 bar, T1 is 43 degree centigrade. Then we have to determine the V oil and V2. Same thing here, friends, but only thing precaution is, please note, pressures and temperatures must both be in absolute values. What to do for that? Same equation, P1 V1 by T1 equal to P2 V2 by T2. Substitute the values in the absolute values, meaning P1 is 21 plus 1, temperature also, to convert the degree centigrade to absolute values, we have to add 273.15. Then afterward, we will calculate V2 equal to 5 liters. Then the V oil equal to V1 minus V2, it is a 17 liters. The objective of this problem is all the pressure terms and temperature terms must be put in the absolute values, not the gauge. Now let us will see one more problem on accumulators. A 22 liters accumulator has a 21 bar gauge pre-charge and is placed in a hydraulic circuit containing a pressure relief valve set at 103 bar, again gauge pressure it is. The circuit is designed so that the accumulator will never fully discharge. It will fluctuate between 103 bar gauge and a minimum pressure 48 bar gauge. Determine the oil capacity that can store in the accumulator. Friends, you will see all these parameters I am keeping same because to understand the where the changes are taking place in the problem. Only that reason. That's why I am keeping these 22 liters, 21 bar, 103 bar I am keeping same. But in examination they may change any value. Now we will see here the given data for empty accumulator. The nitrogen P charge, P1 is 21 bar, V1 is 22 liters. When it is fully charged, P2 is 103 bar. Our objective is to find out the V oil, how much it is. For that, before we have to find out the V2. You know already P1 V1 equal to P2 V2. From that you have to determine V2, then you have to calculate V oil. Then he is given the accumulator will fluctuates between the pressure. That is a low pressure is P2 equal to 48 bar, and what is my V2 and what is my V oil we have to find out. So for that, first what I will do, I will apply the equations for the empty and full. That time P1 V1 equal to P2 V2, then substitute all the values, but please take care friend, all the values are in the absolute terms. That is why I am adding the 1 bar here. Then we have to determine the V2. V2 here what I am getting is 4.6538 liters. Then V oil is the V1 minus V2 will give you the V oil, it is a 17.3462 liters. Now we will apply the same equations for the empty and the low loaded accumulators as P1 V1 equal to P3 V3. Now substitute all the values in the absolute term, we will get V3 equal to, now this time I am getting V3 equal to 9.878 liters. Then V oil is, now I am getting the 12.122 liters. Previously I am getting 17.3462 liters when the pressure is 103 bar. Now when it is very low, fluctuates very low 48 bar, I am getting 12.122. Then what is the difference here? This is the usable capacity is this minus this will give you the usable capacity, that is a 5.224 liters. After knowing the some of the simple numericals on the accumulators, now let us quickly see the maintenance, repair, reconditioning and a troubleshooting steps in the fluid power system. These steps are mainly meant for the oil hydraulics, and the same thing can be used for the pneumatics also, but only thing as we have seen, only the working media will matters. In the hydraulics we are using the oil, incompressible fluids, and the pneumatics we are using the compressible fluids, only this is a change. But all the maintenance, repair and reconditioning, troubleshooting steps are very important in both the oil hydraulics and a pneumatic system. The modern hydraulic systems have become highly sophisticated and increasing complex operating at much higher power and speeds with a greater accuracy. They find a wide applications in various fields of modern engineering, aerospace, ocean, mechanical, mining, agricultural, construction, automotive, biomedical and MEMS devices. Hence, failure of any components in a fluid power system is not at all desirable and results in a non-utilization of machines, manpower, etc., and it results in a huge loss. In order to enhance the operational reliability and a maintainability of the hydraulic system, a periodic and a routine maintenance is must. Hence, shop floor managers have to take up various maintenance and repair measures either a preventive maintenance or a condition based monitoring which ensures a trouble free functioning of the system. Please note, in a hydraulic system, curing a fault alone is not enough. For example, replacement of a faulty pump or any other components with a new one may apply a corrections, but the new pump or a replaced component may also fail if the cause of the initial fault is not treated and analyzed properly. Fault diagnosis is very important as this establishes the cause which could reoccur if left uncorrected or not analyzed properly during the rebuilding process. So, it isolates the primary cause from secondary effects. Fault diagnosis report is an important asset to the management in these days of ever increasing hike in oil prices and components and their effects on the maintenance, troubleshooting, repairing and reconditioning of the fluid power system. The repair or a maintenance technician should be able to understand the construction and a functional features of each individual element, its application in the hydraulic circuit, and should be able to relate to the overall behavior of the system as a whole. Sometimes a simple malfunctioning can be corrected through a slight adjustment of the component or a control parts. For major repairs, the system needs to be stopped for inspection, fault diagnosis and a repair. Reconditioning and overhauling may also be needed if the machine is quite old and faults cannot be rectified through the routine repairs. At this stage, it may be necessary to decide whether one has to go for reconditioning and if yes, when. Reconditioning of machine tools and equipments is defined as a planned and systematic engineering activity to restore the equipment to its original condition. You correct Mantili? Reconditioning of machine tools and equipment is defined as a planned and a systematic engineering activity to restore the equipment to its original condition. So, to recondition a hydraulic system, it is essential to have an adequate knowledge of the principles of design and functional performance of various elements and the components of the system. The decision for taking up a fluid power system for reconditioning is arrived at after studying the following parameters: performance of the machine tool utilizing the fluid power, performance of individual fluid components, breakdown and repair or a replacement analysis of the system, economics of reconditioning versus procurement of new machine or elements. Reconditioning cost of up to 25% to 40% of the price of a new system is generally accepted. Availability of critical spares and parts of the system. It has been found that in a hydraulic system, less repair is required for control elements and oil distribution mechanism than for the power generation unit. To solve any problems in fluid power system, one should be conversant or a thorough knowledge of the circuit diagram made of symbols, connections, control method, etc. and also analytical power in the method of diagnosis is an added tool to the repair or a maintenance mechanic. It is also equally important to have an adequate knowledge of the intricacies involved in design and manufacturing of the individual components as well as the design of the entire system is concerned. Now, let us will see common faults in a fluid power system. Before going for repair or reconditioning of fluid power system, it is important to know the type and nature of defects commonly found in the fluid power systems. The most common defects you come across are as follows: reduced speed of travel of the machine tool elements. This may be due to lack of flow from the pump or a leakage in the hydraulics line. Sharp noise in the system. This may be due to the wear and tear of the parts, pressure and fluid losses. Steep rise in the oil temperature. This may be due to friction between the moving parts, lack of coolers and maintenance. Non-uniform or a jerky movements of tables, carriages, etc., especially at low feed rates. Slow response to control, meaning here due to the switching elements, lack of fluid flow and pressures and many more. Excessive leakage in the system. This may be due to the improper selection of seals and fittings, seal failures and many more. Excessive loss of the system pressure may be due to the leakages, improper selection of tubing and fittings, vibrations, wear and tear of the parts and many more. Cavitation of the pump may be due to vapor pressure, air bubbles, foam formation in the reservoir tank and many more. No supply or a less supply of flow from the pump. What is the reason here? May be due to filter blockages, scales and sludge formation in the tank and many more. High rates of seal failure. This is by improper selection and maintenance schedules. High degree of contamination level of the system media. This may be occur from the environment or assembly time or operations. The wear and tear will take place due to the friction between the parts. And also during the maintenance, the environmental dust particles may enter in the system. This is also the main reason. Incorrect type of oil. This may be due to lack of knowledge, frequent switchover between the one fluid to another working fluid. This is also affecting the performance. Now, I am showing you the general failure rates of some common hydraulic components. You will see here, friends, the failure rate versus the fluid power elements. The control elements failure rate is more. Next is a pipes and reservoirs, working element like actuators. Here it is a pump. Next one is a electric motor. It is important to note that the above faults may be caused by many factors that are interrelated. Once the causes are established, remedial action becomes easy during the breakdown maintenance or during the system reconditioning period. The decision to recondition a system will depend on the individual condition of the unit members, their interrelated individual patterns and hydraulic performance of the system as a whole. Reconditioning of the system should be considered when the machine tool using the hydraulic power is no longer capable of functioning at the rated capacity. Apart from the conditioning mentioned earlier, the prime consideration for rebuilding of the system should be centered around whether the power generated is effective in transmitting the energy at its related capacity, whether the type of spare parts or a components or a elements are available in the plant or in the market, whether the necessary finishing, super finishing or a polishing techniques like a honing, lapping, etc. are available with the plant. Next, whether the hydraulic test rig is available in the plant to check the performance of the individual characteristics of the system after or before reconditioning. Also, we have to see whether trained fluid power personnel like a technicians and supervisors are available to carry out the reconditioning work. Apart from the conditions mentioned above, it is always advisable to replace a hydraulic element rather than rebuild it if the degree of damage is higher. But care must be taken to procure the right kind of elements compatible with the system is very important. To take care, a clear-cut decision of the procurement of correct spares like a control valves, cylinders, seals and packings, filters, etc. So, it is essential to have a detailed list of spares and hydraulic circuit diagrams in hand. It will be helpful if the functional diagram is also enclosed. Many times it happens that the machine tool manufacturer may not be in a position to supply the correct item due to change in design or other reasons. So, it is necessary in such cases to obtain the essential spare parts or information from the hydraulic component manufacturer. It is advisable to maintain a stock of all the necessary hardware and a critical spares like seals, rings, filters, accumulators, coolers, gauges, etc. in the hand. So, it should be ready before the hydraulic system is taken up overhauling or a reconditioning. Now, quickly we will see the routine or a preventive maintenance system. A properly organized routine or a preventive maintenance system will definitely be advantageous while rebuilding the system, as most of the components can be reused with or without modification. In reconditioning, as a rule of thumb, all bearings, O-rings and other seals, filters, etc. are to be discarded and replaced with items procured from the standard suppliers as per the original specification. For a preventive maintenance techniques to be truly effective, it is necessary to have a good report and records the system. These reports should include the followings: the types of symptoms encountered, how they were detected and the date, a description of the maintenance repairs performed. This should include the replacement of parts, the amount of downtime and the date. Records of the dates when oil was tested, added or changed. Similarly, the dates of filters, seals, coolers and many other auxiliary component changed and should be recorded. Last but not the least, environmental rules and regulation have been established concerning the operation of fluid power systems by developing the methods which are efficient and cost effective, and keep all the records on the developing biodegradable fluids, maintaining and disposing hydraulic fluids, reducing oil leakages, reducing noise levels. Now, quickly I will give you some glimpse on the troubleshooting on the various hydraulic components. why they will occur, and where we will concentrate during the maintenance. When troubleshooting the fluid power circuits, it should be kept in mind that a pump produces the flow of fluid. However, there must be a resistance to flow in order to have a pressure. The following is a list of the hydraulic system operating problems and the corresponding probable causes that should be investigated during the troubleshooting. The noisy in pump may be due to air entering pump inlet, misalignment of pump and drive unit, excessive oil viscosity, dirty inlet strainer, chattering relief valve, damaged pump, excessive pump speed, loose or damaged inlet line. Another problem may be a low or erratic pressure in the system. This may be due to the air in the fluid. Pressure relief valve is set to too low. PRV is not properly seated. Leakage in hydraulic and pneumatic lines. Defective or worn pump. Defective or worn actuator. No pressure. This may be due to the pump rotation in wrong directions. Ruptured hydraulic lines. Low fluid level in the reservoir or compressors. PRV stuck open. Broken pump or a compressor shaft. Full fluid flow bypass to the tank or atmosphere due to faulty valve or actuator. If actuator fails to move, then what are the reason here? Faulty pump, DCV fails to shift, system pressure too low, defective actuator, PRV stuck open, actuator load is excessive, check valve in backwards. Sometimes we will come across slow or erratic motion of actuator. This may be due to many reasons like air in the system, viscosity of fluid is too high, worn or a damaged pump, pump speed is too low, excessive leakage through the actuators or valves, faulty or a dirty flow control valves, blocked air breathers in the reservoir, low fluid level in the reservoir, faulty check valve, defective pressure relief valves. If we are come across overheating of the hydraulic valve, what are the reasons? Heat exchanger turned off or a faulty, undersized components or a pipings, incorrect fluid, continuous operation of pressure relief valve, overloaded system, dirty fluid, reservoir too small, inadequate supply of oil in the reservoir, excessive pump speed, clogged or inadequate sized air breathers. Like this, there are various parts. They will give the precautions by generating the noise, or sometimes you will not observe the pressure, or sometimes you will not see the actuator movement, or sometimes you will not get the flow at the pump outlet. Our objective is to find out what is the cause for it. Then we will try to rectify this using your preventive maintenance or a condition based monitoring system. Now, quickly I will tell you friends, the safety aspects in fluid power. Basically in hydraulic system is very important because we are operating at a very high pressures compared to pneumatics. There should be no compromise in the safety when fluid power circuits are designed, operated and maintained. However, human errors are unavoidable and accidents can occur, resulting in injury to operating and maintenance personnel. This can be greatly reduced by eliminating all unsafe conditions dealing with the operations and maintenance of the system. Many safe practices have been proven effective in preventing the safety hazards which can be harmful to the health and safety of personnel. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, briefly known as OSHA, of the Department of Labor describes and enforces safety standards at the industry location where fluid power equipment is operated. For detailed information on OSHA standards and requirement, the student should request a copy of OSHA publication 2072, General Industry Guide for Applying a Safety and a Health Standards 29, CFR 1910. These standards and requirements deal with the following categories of standards: workplace standard, how it should be; machine and equipment standards; material standards; employee standards; power source standards; process standards; administrative regulations. The basic rule to follow is that there should be no compromise when it comes to the health and safety of the personnel at their place of employment. Okay friends, we will conclude today's lecture. So, in the today's lecture, we have discussed in detail the followings: hydraulic accumulators, characteristics, basic functions, desirable properties, broad classifications of the accumulators, application of accumulators in hydraulic circuits, accumulator physics. Here we will discuss the governing equation while designing the accumulators, numerical problems we have seen. Last but not the least, we have seen the maintenance, repair, reconditioning, troubleshooting and safety aspects. Okay friends, we will stop now and see you all in the next class. Until then, bye bye. Thank you one and all for your kind attention. Sarve jana sukhino bhavantu.